Well, how I got involved, Randolph from Englewood Neighborhood Center, which is the neighborhood center that I grew up in. I just love the idea because growing up at the shop that I grew up in, they gave me an opportunity, so why not give back?
I always loved art, like in any type of form. If it's drawing, tattoo, graffiti, haircuts, anything. So once I turned 16, I got involved with the program. Since then, I've been working here at the barbershop and learning new things.
He comes in, he helps out with a lot of just, the basics from sweeping hair to standing behind somebody's chair asking questions. And I think him seeing my actions and the way I move and how everything functions, I think he picks up on a lot of that as well. But
the thing that I learned so far is the more customers you can gain in the barber industry it's not just by cutting hair and like cutting good. That's not what barbering is all about. It's also having a connection with your clients and understanding them. And they were just teaching us how to manage our money, save it, and just use it properly in the proper way.
From business owner to business owner, if we can help and the more people get involved, the better the chances are that these young men growing up and young women growing up, they can change their life.
I want to be a barber, and I also want to have my own business in the barber industry as well.
Trailing Thoughts from Bumby Path. This is such a friendly neighborhood because people have been aggressively waving at me a lot today. What is that sound I keep hearing behind me? Oh, I'm dragging a child's kite. How long have I been dragging that for? And why didn't any of these nice people tell me?
I've been waiting for this for weeks. I gotta tell you, I am so ready to do this. I even have the bed ready. What? So when you get home, we can get really dirty.
Gotta go. Hey! Here you go. With all this compost, we're gonna have the best plants in the neighborhood.
Trailing Thoughts from Airport Gap. If planes were like people, would jets be considered the jocks? Would they throw hangar parties when their parents were out of town? If one plane said to the other, "I just flew in from the coast, and boy, are my arms tired," would it be considered a joke or just normal conversation?
Sometimes people just say, "Can you hold my hand?" And you make that difference. And you're helping them get through a bad day.
Good morning, Commissioners, and those in attendance and viewing on the web. Happy April. Welcome to the April 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Orlando City Council. Number one, we are happy to have Kathy DeVault back as a full-time city employee. Day number 2 in her second stint.
You can't quit us.
All right. As you know, the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority is proud to operate 2 airports, the Orlando International Airport and the Orlando Executive, which are 2 premier air gateways to our community. OIA is a world-class global connector with more than 50 million annual passengers. We opened new Terminal C last year, which will add 10 to 12 million passengers a year and is truly a transformational facility with a hub for planes and trains and planes, cars, and soon trains, with Brightline due to arrive this summer. The Executive Airport is conveniently located in downtown and provides vital general aviation access to the heart of our region. We have our 1 year in office general manager of the airport, executive director of the airport, Kevin Tebow, and he is going to present to us today GOA's strategic plan.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, good morning on a Monday. Nice to be here. Glad to give you a presentation on the update of our strategic plan. As many of you have probably been following, as we've been mentioning, we had undertaken this effort later last year, I should say. And this is a key part of that is getting stakeholder input. So this morning, what our goal is to kind of engage a little bit the council on what your thoughts are for the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority and clearly the assets that we operate on behalf of the city. So the strategic planning process that's in front of you here is a defined process that all the airports use. It's a function of the Airport Cooperative Research Program. And it really focuses on what's the mission statement, what's the vision, where do we see what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats are, exactly identifying what are our strategic issues to address, and more importantly then, what should be our long-term objectives, short-term objectives, action plans, so that we can develop goals, objectives, and strategies for the years ahead. In 2013, the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority created a strategic plan that focused on these 4 goals. Making sure that we have a focus on customer service, recognize that we'll always be the economic engine for the region, make sure the facilities that we provide are safe and secure, and obviously doing everything under a fiscal prudence. But if you think about it, those 4 goals to me are foundational. We'll always be providing safe and secure facilities. We'll always be doing things in a fiscal responsible manner. So as we start to pivot then from the 2013 plan, it's now an opportunity to say, where do we go from here? More importantly, where do we go 10 plus years in the future? Look at the milestones and passenger activity that's occurred just over the time from the commencement of pretty much International Airport to now. And you see this rapid growth that's occurring and continues to occur. As the mayor mentioned earlier, last year we finished the calendar year at 50.2 million annual passengers through Orlando International Airport. Our rolling 12-month average, or total, of passengers through the month of February is now at 52 million annual passengers. At the trajectory we are at, we will finish this year at 55 million annual passengers. There's not too many airports, outside obviously the pandemic period, that grows at a 10% rate. And so one of the things that, as we look backwards, we obviously now position forward to say, where do we need to do to be prepared for the growth? Not only, again, as the strong destination that we will always be, but what we're seeing here in the region in the growth of the origin, the growth of the population. For within our catchment area, which is a 2-hour circumference, radius, I should say, around this airport, there's 13.5 million people that lives in that catchment area. When I went back and looked at the 2013 study, it identified 12 million in that same area. So So just in that 10-year difference, we've gained over 1.5 million people. And so again, the dynamics are changing, the growth of the area is changing, and as the mayor mentioned earlier, with Brightline coming in here and that modal hub that we've created down there, it's changing the whole future of what this transportation asset should be for the region. There we go. So right now, again, looking at the end of the calendar year in December 2022, we are the 9th busiest airport. And you can see those that are to the left of that line, they're all, except for Las Vegas, a hub. And that's what separates Orlando from a lot of these other major airports. We are not a hub. So when I say 50 million annual passengers, 50 million annual passengers are going through every part of that airport, from the curbside, to the garages, to the rental cars, to the TSA checkpoint. When you go through Atlanta, which is the big dog there on the list, bulk of that is all on the air side, right? People connecting from Concourse A to Concourse E. Don't you love that trip? But that's different. It's just a different dynamic, right? They're not going to the land side. They're not going to the curb. They're not going to the rental car facility. So that's the difference that separates Orlando with a lot of the other comparison airports. On the next slide, you'll see that we are the second largest in origin and destination, right behind LAX. Over the last several weeks, you notice we have posted that we had exceeded the number of people we had pushed through the TSA checkpoint. During the spring break season, there was a Saturday and a Sunday where there was a Saturday we had 95,000 people go through the TSA checkpoint, more than LAX. And the next day we had 93,000 people. So that just shows you many times we're right behind LAX in going through the checkpoint and just the sheer volume of people going in and out of here. Again, think about that. A lot of it's the people who live here as well. And that's where the focus needs to be as we start to look at the growth. And that's what the next slide is showing here is the percentage of their origination. You can see here it's been continuing to grow over the last 8-10 years from the heavy destination to those that are really from this region using MCO as their home airport. Orlando Executive as well has seen some dramatic uptick in their aircraft operations, approaching the 150,000 operations again. As you can see here in this slide, just 20 years ago, we were well over 200,000, and it had a significant drop for a period. But now that has rebounded back, and as the growth of this region has occurred, the growth of that executive airport has occurred as well, to the point that our fixed-based operators there is basically like Bethlehem, no room at the inn. There is no more room for hangar space and so on because of just the demand that's occurring at the airport. We all understand the statistics of what's going on with our MSA here, and the economy is robust and growing. You can see here forecasts of how just in a few years we'll continue to go from 20th biggest ranking to the 17th to the 15th largest, just in a short period of time. And again, the population growth has just been amazing through the region. When you look at an industry and you look at a snapshot of those key things that stand out among the aviation industry, these are the things that kind of gravitate to, whether it be in demand, technology, operations, business, or regulation. Obviously, mergers and acquisitions in the demand part. We've seen a lot of airlines have had mergers, or those that are thinking about mergers. The pilot shortage has been obviously a major impact, especially post-pandemic. Technology, the use of digital twins and data and social media. We leverage our social media platforms quite a bit to get messages out to the community on different things that are occurring on, including town halls that we just held recently just to get community feedback on the strategic plan update. Advanced air mobility is one of those things that's not a if it will happen, it's more of when it will happen. And our focus has been at both locations is how can that work together instead of playing a little bit of Heisman, right, and keeping it away. It's more importantly trying to see how that would work, knowing that's when it's going to come, and how do we do that? And what are other airports talking about? Using this word diagram here, it's just all about how do we improve our facilities? How do we make sure things are sustainable in a financial sense? How do we continue to focus on the customer experience and the passenger experience? And again, we got things like revenue diversion and so on are all key things that I'll look at as we look forward here. So what does the 2023 strategic plan look like? Well, first, we accomplished what we thought was the vision back many decades ago. And as the mayor mentioned, we opened Terminal C back last September and made that reality. And so as we start to look at what the cover will be in the 2023 strategic plan, it's really about what's next. What's our vision? As I mentioned at the beginning, we have a defined schedule to do this update. Basically in a year, we started in September in the first phase of doing kind of the data analysis and gap analysis, start to look at the current situation and the prospective opportunities. We had a strategic retreat we held with our leadership team earlier this year. And then that commenced where we went to phase 2, which is we're in the midst of right now, which is stakeholder outreach, internal and external stakeholders. And then it'll dovetail to phase 3, which is kind of then gathering all this information that we've developed over the last several months, right, from the different data points to the stakeholders, and then start to develop that draft strategic plan, should be that dashboard, and more importantly, where do we go from here? 2 takeaways, by the way, from the last strategic plan that we're making sure that we don't lose sight of one was we did stakeholder outreach back in 2013, but never looped back and said, but this is what we heard. We just developed a nice little document and then we moved forward. And we didn't have a dashboard, we didn't have any benchmarks. So if whatever our aspirational goal is for 2033 and beyond, the key is to develop those benchmarks and that dashboard to say, okay, if we aspire for this, how do we get there, and the goals and the strategies, and then how are we tracking towards those in the years ahead. Again, our stakeholder engagement has been with our internal stakeholders, that we've had a number of meetings with our GOA employees as well as our officers and managers, and then external stakeholders included our airport business partners, our regional organizations and corporations, and the general public. We've held 2 town hall meetings, one at the executive airport at our community center there, and one down at the UF satellite off of Conway just last week, actually. And we continue to, as often as we can, give this, and we'll leave some of these for you, so as you meet with your constituents, you can share this. We pass this out a lot to different communities. It's multilingual, so that people can provide that feedback along this next period here. So that leads me to an open part of the discussion, and just to kind of get some juices flowing here on a Monday morning. I saw some of you have coffee here. Stephanie has her coffee there. So anyway, how can you contribute to GOA's strategic plan? It's more of an aspirational goal, is what I've tried to tell the team. It's aim for the ceiling, not the floor. How do we make sure it's unconstrained, it's challenging, it's bold, it's transformative, as well as being creative? We want to focus on leading and not on following. Now, I'm a big fan of copying anything and stealing everything from others. So I'll go to other airports as we fly through, and I'll look around and say, oh, that's a great idea. Let's see if we can do that here. But again, my expectation for the city is that we want to make sure this is kind of a leading airport, not just a following airport. And more importantly, how does this vision for really GOA reflect the organization's potential for growth and positive impacts regionally and globally? So with that, I'm going to just ask a few questions, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Sure.
As a customer, what would you recommend as priorities for improvement by GOA?
Commissioner Sheehan? I think that's an invitation to
Yeah.
engage.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I don't mind engaging. So, I haven't been in the airport for a while because I was super careful during COVID and everything like that. And I've had a trip that I'm supposed to take to Ireland. It's been postponed many, many times, and I can't wait to go. So,
Great.
looking forward to being back in the airport. But the one thing that I'm hearing from my friends and social media and things like that is the Terminal C access and the long walk, especially for seniors and situations like that. I mean, everybody says it's a beautiful terminal. It's just hard to get from C to the main terminal, and I haven't been out to see it yet. So have you all thought about, I know that there's some, you have put in some, I guess, golf carts and stuff to bring people to and fro, but it is an awful long walk from what I'm hearing, so.
Yeah, a couple of things, Mayor, if I may, Commissioner. So there's a few things we got going on concurrently. One is the pedestrian bridge that was removed that connected the train station to the terminal. Because of the pandemic, the team had to make a decision on, because we didn't know when the passengers were coming back, how to keep it under a tighter budget. Because again, the revenues are all based upon the passengers coming in. So we are in the midst of actually securing that bridge to put in. So in the meantime, people go through the garage, so it's not obviously the optimum solution. But that new connector will have moving walkways in it. The other thing that we're looking at is retrofitting moving walkways within the terminal itself in some key locations. And we actually, in a couple weeks, actually have an industry forum with those providers of those devices to come in and give us some feedback, so that when we do a solicitation in the next couple months, we'll base that on what the providers are telling us they can provide for us in a retrofit environment.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's easier to install something and harder to retrofit, so. Is it
Right.
gonna add to the cost significantly, or?
Well, that's where we're going to get from the industry right now. But fortunately, there are providers out there that do what they call these pitless walkways that do not require a big pit. And so that's where we want to see from them what could be done in Terminal C. And then finally, is we have put in those mobility devices, and we have actually 6 of them now in the new terminal. 4 of them in the domestic and 2 in the international, and actually work quite well, to the point that it's only been a couple months and we've had already over 10,000 riders on those mobility devices. So.
Okay. And I did have another question. There have been some pretty, serious service interruptions from some of the carriers. And I know that's not y'all's fault, but you're having to deal with a lot of people dealing with, being stranded and things like that. So how are y'all, accommodating your unexpected guests with the delays and lodging and different things like that?
Yeah, so a couple of things that we do, Commissioner, is obviously we make sure that our concessions are open to whatever that last flight is, or the time, and if it's one of those that it's a delay that they got people stranded, that key concessions remain open, whether it be a Starbucks or whatever the different concession may be. We also share with them the opportunity that we have with the Hyatt Hotel, and we work with our airport partners, with our aviation partners, to make sure that information is shared.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Kevin, thank you to you and your team for coming in. A couple of thoughts. What role does the airport play in getting Sunrail to and from the airport?
So one of the roles, clearly we built the train station, as you know, and the commissioners know, we opened that train station in 2017, and there was no train, there was no terminal. But we built it with not only Brightline coming in, but for Sunrail to come in as well. So one of the things that we are working with is with the corridor partners and how we can facilitate what that vision could happen. Beyond the fact that we have the platform ready for it, what more can we do to make that happen? One of the things that we internally strategizing is, as the population has grown, the demands for parking has grown, right? And the demands for the roadway access has grown, right? The curb lengths and so on. It would benefit everyone if there was another way to connect people to the airport, right? Jeff Fuquay Boulevard can only handle so much volume, let's be honest, right? It's 6 lanes on the north end. It's as wide as it's going to be. It can't be any wider. On the south end, we have a little bit more of capacity that we could add there. So as we eke out those capacity opportunities, yeah, it's really about how do we sit down and talk about where we could partner even some more on the Sunrail connection.
Right. And you may have answered my second question, which is, do we have any abilities to help, in vein with what Commissioner Sheehan has said? One of the big complaints that I hear is the arrival area getting just stacked up with people and the constant circle around until your group shows up at the curb.
Right.
Is there much we can do there, Kevin?
So Terminal C, the positive is it has a long curb, right? Because that was the lessons learned. With A and B, it's kind of limited a little bit, so we've got to try to change the mindset then of how people drop off and pick up people. One is continue to push to sell lots, because a lot of people just kind of do that. As the plane is circling, the cars are circling, right, on the roadway. How do we get that to stop happening? The other thing is, again, copying anything from others, is do we develop these other curbs, quote, quote, curbs, that can help push people to a different location? For example, the business traveler who's just got the carry-on, he doesn't need to go to the check-in level. He needs to go just directly to the TSA checkpoint. How do I bring them there? Our checkpoint, as you know, is, you've been out there, they're as wide as they can be now. We moved out some of the concessions and made them as physically as wide as they could be. But as we continue to grow, we got to think about, do we create a stack type of situation where those frequent travelers, like the business travelers that may have pre-check, come in at this level and you get another group at this other level. So those are all the things that we're studying right now.
Got it. And then my last one is more of a macro, and I know you got to be careful what you say here because we all answer to Washington, but a lot of energy now about the infrastructure of the air traffic control system. How do we stack up, number one, and then number two, what do you see or what are you hearing in the future for that? There was a big article, I think, in the Sentinel yesterday, how some say we have fallen behind some of the European countries in our infrastructure to control air traffic. So what can you share with us on that without getting too much in trouble with Washington?
No, so the air traffic control is provided by Federal Aviation Administration, and our tower itself and its staffing levels are at where they should be. So we don't have a unique area issue here, but all traffic out of Florida goes through Jack Center. Remember, it's a handoff from tower to tower to tower, and Jack Center is that handoff going to and from the north, basically. And so not only us, it's all those going up the eastern seaboard, we have to go through Jack Center. And that has been a challenge a little bit on their staffing levels and so on to be able to provide that. The issue that we had earlier this year with the NOTAM system is a thing that they're addressing right now. It works well in the sense of what it's providing to the pilots. But like anything related to technology, it always needs to be updated and kept fresh with the latest. So that I'm sure they're working on.
Great. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for your presentation. We didn't talk much about the executive airport. Anything going on? Any plans?
So the executive airport, one of the FBOs is expanding their presence there, adding more hangars. As I mentioned earlier, that seems to be one of the things that we hear a lot about is people who are arriving here, moving into the area, want to have the ability to have, the ability to store their aircraft at the executive airport. We have just recently changed some of our minimum standards to allow a third fixed-based operator over there at the airport, in that property in the southeast corner, perhaps. So again, it gives us an opportunity to look at what's the demand and what's the needs in the region. As it relates to the commercial front, that's along Colonial, one of the things that we're trying to get from the strategic plan is what we're hearing from the community, what they envision that to be.
So let me add then, we had a little obstacle for a little while because I had clients that have come here looking to rent some of the space and they're willing to fix some of those buildings, but we keep hearing that you guys are not leasing for more than 5 years, and that's a huge obstacle for us, and that's why that area stayed stagnant. Are there any changes to that in the very immediate future?
Absolutely, Commissioner. One of the things the strat plan will do is identify where we see that. Let's say I'm going to use Colonial Promenade just as one of the connection points. As we look at what we're going to do with that property, my sense is that it will not be a like it was before a shopping mall. It's going to evolve. What's that evolution going to be? And more importantly, then making sure if it's going to be that robust view for the community and asset for the community, it needs to be of longer term, because you want to create that environment so that that commercial entity wants to be there and make it grow.
We had a particular client wants to use the property where the theater was and do a play type of theater. They want to invest on that along with a restaurant. And I had other people that have come over because they're interested in a particular area because they want to establish schools. Particular school for, I don't remember if it was the particular assignment, but anyhow. But we have found obstacles in the sense of being able to push that forward, because we keep hearing back that no contract for further than 5 years. So what are the chances for us to change this so we can go ahead and bring those people on board?
So Commissioner, I suggest is just get them to connect with me.
Okay.
I think a lot of that was as Phil was getting ready to retire, and he had obviously telegraphed that a little bit before he actually retired. There was kind of that hiatus, right? Where did we go from here type thing? So, but now that I've been here, let's sit down, and we're definitely open to talk about what are the opportunities.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Looking forward to it.
Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Thank you, Kevin. As I travel, oftentimes when I visit other airports, it just makes me proud to be from Orlando and see what we have going on. So thank you for your work there. My question is in reference to our workforce development. Throughout different industries, we've been having some challenges, because of COVID and several other areas. Can you speak to kind of the workforce development within GOA and anything, planned within the strategic plan, but also with our airport business partners? Because we oftentimes have heard about, different wages, different concerns about wages. And can you speak to the workforce development within GOA and then any discussions with our business partners?
So as it relates to GOA, Commissioner, let's talk about procurements that we have first, right? One of the things that we are doing additional outreach is with the small business community, with the minority women-owned business community, getting way out in front of those opportunities before they come out. In the past, we tended to be, the advertisement's out, can't really talk to you now, but this is the opportunity, versus, no, I have this opportunity many, many months in advance, so that way those teams can be developed, and more importantly, the right skill sets are put together for that procurement. Case in point, if I'm going out for a baggage handling maintenance system, it's kind of a unique skill set. My thought would be is how do we get out to the industry way out in advance so that then those teams can then be put together versus just putting it out. So we continue to do those outreaches throughout the region to get that input from the community, more importantly, giving them feedback and what's coming up in the months ahead. And we'll continue to do that. We're continuing to track what our small business goals are. As many of you know, in Terminal C, we had about a 20% small business goal that was met throughout that. And when you talk about a $2.8 billion project, $500 million is a lot to our small business community, and it touched a lot of different groups. You're going to ebb and flow, right? So as we kind of switch to what's next, it's continuing that engagement. Don't lose that momentum that you had in that previous opportunity. As it relates to our partners, we kind of set the expectation with them. We don't have a lot of control on some of what they can do. But as many of you know, like a lot of the city and county has done, we raised our minimum to a certain level. We helped last fall get rid of some of the compression issues related to pay. We changed some of our benefits to be able to recruit and retain within the GOA platform. And so you try to create that model to say, if we can do this, why can't you do the same? Again, I only have so much ability. It's more of the networking and partnership. But we continue to push that. We see some things that are in the positive trend, but it's a constant, communication with them.
All right. And you mentioned the small business, and I do appreciate that. Have you all been tracking the within the small business, the minority and women businesses who've been able to participate in the contract? And then what percentage are, because I think we have a goal of 30% if I'm not correct.
Yeah, Commissioner, it depends on the project, right? Or
Okay.
it depends on the assignment. Some of them could be, down to 15%, some could be 30 plus. It just depends on the different assignment.
Okay.
But we track each and every one of them, and each and every one of procurement that goes in front of the board, which the mayor is on, will have a small business goal tied to it. Like if I'm purchasing IT equipment, well, it may not be because of the unique nature, but if I'm going out, like I said, for that procurement for repair of the baggage handling system, I will assign a goal. And that is developed working in concert with the industry as well as what's out there as relates to within this area, where can I find mechanics, where can I find different trades and so on that is commensurate with that work activity.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hill, then Commissioner Stewart.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for your presentation this morning. I just want to commend you, the person. From the day I met you, I like you. You're one of the most knowledgeable, genuine, caring, I think, executives, especially in that space of transportation and air traffic that I've met. And that airport represent you to that manner, because when you come in, you can feel the friendly environment, that customer service environment, the cleanliness of it all, and people just seem to be happy to be there now. I've been here on this dais for 10 years, and I've had the privilege to fly, and like Commissioner Burns stated, I'm just really proud to be a part of this system and be an Orlandian. And then, as always, welcoming to come back home and hear our dear mayor's voice welcome us back home.
We're trying to get it in Terminal C. I'm working on it.
Oh,
We're trying
please
to get it in. Yeah.
And I must say, I know the board, as you said, Mayor and Mayor Dimmons is on, and yourself. I've been privy to be a part, and well, come out just as a spectator and someone that really care about small businesses and minority participation. And I think here about 3 or 4 months ago, I came out for a whole day. It was over 600 plus
Correct.
minorities and small businesses in the room that had either gotten contracts on Terminal C, or those that hadn't and were seeking these new contracts that you were talking about. Just want to commend Mr. George Morning and his team for the rollout that they did that day. Mm-hmm. Also, they've been giving me emails. No, you just did a major janitorial outreach for minorities. I think it's going to be close to $600,000-$700,000 that you're going to break out in packages for those small janitorial businesses. I just want to say thank you for keeping us engaged and not just keeping it to the top at a higher level, but really engaging us that's women. I have to always look at my good commissioner to the right. I got to be careful when I say black and brown, but Latino and African Americans, they're out there, and it really makes a difference when we start going into the communities, because it's going to touch our children and those families with the job development, with the workforce industry. So, it's great things coming. I'm just so proud to be a part of the GOA team, but you being at the helm. I do want to ask one question, because I think it's not in my district, it's in Commissioner Ortiz's district, but me growing up in Orlando and remembering what that Colonial Promenade once was and how it thrived, I know it's an entity of GOA, but have you all considered working with the city team with a vision plan versus saying, well, this is what we want to do, or can some partners come out? And it's something that Mayor is getting ready to lead in Paramore, because we've revitalized, but we don't have a true vision plan in Paramore. So I don't know if that was something that you all considered doing charrettes in the community and what the need is versus what us and the government entities think they need.
Yeah, no, Commissioner, I think it's a great idea. Part of the strategic plan is to do that. It's what, what could we aspire for that area? And as a result of the strategic plan, by the way, we will do 2 updates, one for the master plan at Orlando International as well as the master plan for Orlando Executive. So as we start to look at those updates, it's really then about, okay, this is what we heard, and more importantly, this is where we want to go. And then start to develop, what does that mean then for each location?
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Kevin, let me tell you thank you for what you do and appreciate the work that goes into trying to run this airport. It's I'm very proud of it. I'm not going to spend time covering all the other issues that we discussed because those are things all of us, I think, probably agree with. So I do want to touch on a couple of quick things. The entryway to Orlando from the east, it's our opinion that we would like to have that area where you're at and across the street become a gateway. And like Commissioner Ortiz has said, y'all have been the barrier to that. So we want to open that barrier up. So I'll be bold enough to say, if you don't want to do it, give it to us and let us do it, okay? Because it appears to be run down, and we have a chance across the street where we're really doing some neat stuff over near Fashion Square. Across the street, we'd like to do the same kind of thing.
Sure.
So I would say that it's a priority. I know it's a priority for Commissioner Ortiz and priority to me, because we border those 2 areas.
Right.
Okay. The second thing I want to share with you, and I say this in a kind way, we're all getting older. So as Commissioner Sheehan shared, the access of walking is a challenge. But one of the common complaints I hear is handling those who have handicaps and the access of trying to get them around the airport. What are we doing in terms of that kind of special need that we have?
That's a great question, Commissioner. One of the things that I hear quite a bit, and thank you, by the way, sharing some of your constituents' comments, because that's going back to what you said, Commissioner. That's one of my focal points, is getting back to customer comments. Is that whole mobility, and how do we provide that consistent service to that group? Because right now we have a practice that we allow the airlines to handle that wheelchair access, right, and providing the wheelchair. And it's, as you can imagine, not consistent, because each one has a different contract provider. Each one does things differently. And so one of the things that I've challenged the team is what about if the airport provides that? And then we just charge back the airlines for that service by a pro rata. So the larger airlines would pay more than the smaller airlines just because of the nature of the volume. But then you've got a consistent service to each and every passenger, regardless if they're taking American Airlines or United Airlines or Frontier or whoever it is. Remember, now we got 34 airlines that are part of the airport. We're not like Atlanta again, right? So trying to get that consistent customer experience is very important. Remember, that was one of the goals back in 2013, right? Customer service. So if that's foundational, that means we can continually update that, make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And that's one of the things that we're actually looking at right now.
I think it's important. The other thing is the mayor and this council has said that sustainability is important. Every time I fly into another airport, I see fields and fields of solar energy. Where are you in terms of sustainability? Where are you in terms of access of solar power and using some of that land over there that we can help generate energy with?
Well, one of the things that we want to do, Commissioner, is look at our parking, for example, especially the surface lots. And can we put in those solar panels as a tool, right? You've got a cover for the parking, as well as providing that huge solar opportunity. And so we are reaching out with our partners at Orlando Utilities Commission and developing that. They used to have a program. My understanding is it's kind of changed a little bit. So I've reached out to Clint and say, what can we leverage more in that relationship to do that here?
I've just noticed as I'm driving in, most recently in Houston, and I can't think of that second one, but as you drive in, there is such large area in space you have to take for mobility.
Right.
And so it leaves a significant area that's available. And as I drive around, I see a lot of those airports are using that in terms of generating solar energy. Now, I would think in the long term, that's not a bad thing for the airport to essentially be self-sufficient in energy, especially in terms of anything that may happen in the future. But the main thing is that if we can take that burden that you have off of the grid, essentially, I think that's a positive thing for our entire community. We believe, I can't speak for the entire council, I can't speak for the mayor. We believe that's an important goal for us, and we want to move as quickly as we can towards that goal. So if you're looking at 2042, I'd ask you look at 2030, 2028.
Right.
Because the faster we try to get that goal, the sooner we'll actually achieve the goal.
Absolutely.
So those are a couple of things.
Plus, as you know, Commissioner, the electrification of a lot of different vehicles, right? Not only the vehicles that are arriving, the rental cars are now getting all electric fleets, as well as the service vehicles for the airlines. A lot of them are electrified, so that's some of the things that we need to start to develop.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Kevin, just two things. I mean, I know I get my opportunity at board meetings, so I won't take up everybody else's question time, but it's become apparent to me ever since we've done the main line for Sunrail that the next obvious step was to the airport. And now we're looking at the Sunshine Corridor going to I-Drive and then beyond to Tampa with Brightline. But I used to think of it in terms of efficiency and convenience of serving the citizens of Orlando between downtown or Kissimmee to get to the airport. But now there's also the function of easing the parking and traffic situation at the airport. And I think it's a necessity now that we have at least the 3A portion of that Sunshine Corridor. In the next several years, if we're going to continue to grow in the fashion that you opened with, it's now a must-have, not a nice thing to have. So I probably spend, I don't know, a third of my time now in Sunshine Corridor stuff, and I have other staff that spend about 100% of their time, I think. So we're moving that along, but I'll elevate that to crisis mode, I think, in terms of the airport. And then secondly, you want to brag on how well we've done on getting federal money for the expansion of Terminal C.
Yes, no, that's, it's been very, thanks to you, Mayor, and others to reaching out, and we've, over 119 million we've secured over the last two tranches of the, bipartisan infrastructure law, and looking to get more. So we continued the outreach with our federal partners, and it's really exciting to see that what this city has to offer in the asset is really important to what they see in that bipartisan infrastructure law. It does help when there was Pierce sticking up there when we could say it was ready to go. It literally was ready to go. Because a lot of times you do things that's in an open field and you tell people to vision. Well, this was easy to vision, right? And so we'll continue to do that as we move forward.
Commissioner Sheen.
Yeah, I just had one quick follow-up to Commissioner Stewart's concern about solar. I agree, but then we just need to, Commissioner, I keep talking about the concern about net metering. If we're going to put major infrastructure investments in solar, we need to make sure that that all of the people, everyone who puts solar in, all the companies who put solar in, are properly paid for what they generate in power, because solar energy will not work without net metering. So that's why I keep coming back to that again and again. As someone who has solar panels, I understand that you have to be fairly compensated for the amount of power that you generate, and the power companies aren't wanting to do that. So if we're doing it as the City of Orlando, if you're doing it as the airport, we all need to be speaking about the importance of net metering, because if you're just putting solar panels out and the power company gets to keep the solar, they get to keep the power, and you're not properly compensated for that, then solar energy doesn't make sense. So that's all I had to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Kevin, I see on here that there's like 5 pages of questions.
I'm going to jump ahead there So just quickly, before I get to the end, Mayor, when we talk about mission, I just wanted to show the 4 here, that's their mission statement. Some of them are a little verbose, others are to the point, right? But think about Apple, right? Now, this has been their mission statement for a while, before they rolled out the iPod and the iPhone and so on, right? But bring the best user experience to its customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. So as we get to do this update, we look at what should our mission be, and what should our, in looking ahead, what should our vision be? And one of the things I'd share with them is, well, obviously, we're very familiar with President Kennedy's goal, aspirational goal of landing a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And there's a famous story that as he was visiting NASA one time, he interfaced with the janitor, right? What do you do here? My name is Jack. What do you do here? And he says, I'm getting a man on the moon. He wasn't talking about sweeping the floor or anything, because he was focused on the vision. And so really, for the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, what is that vision? See, Federal Highway Administration is 0 is our goal. 0 fatalities. Is that aspirational? Absolutely. But what can it be anything else but that, right? It has to be 0. And so really, I've challenged the team to talk about what the vision is. And look at Amazon, every book ever printed in any language, all available in less than 60 seconds. Well, clearly, they went way beyond that vision to anything you want in the next day, right? But that was their aspiration back in the day for their vision. So I will move ahead to survey links and QR codes. So there are 2 in your PowerPoint presentation, one for you, for the council to do, because they'll ask you some little different questions because of the nature of the government agency that you are. And then the other one is for the public. And I'll leave with Stephanie here samples of these so you can take with you. If you need more, please let us know. Like again, you can leave them on your little coffee table in your offices. But as people come in, you can quickly scan the QR code. Again, it is bilingual. As well as you can see there, as shown here, there is a website if they don't want to use the QR code. Or even after they do the survey, something comes up, they can send an email to strategicplan@goa.org. So with that, that completes the presentation. And thank
So
you
we
very much.
appreciate you being here, Kevin. You brought a number of staff members along with you so that council can identify faces with jobs or areas of expertise. Would you either introduce them or have them introduce themselves? I hate
Sure.
getting put on the spot because sometimes
Yeah, that's right. I saw
miss
someone
somebody's
taking
name.
their glasses off. So first is Giovanni Rodriguez. She's our Chief Administrative Officer at the Authority. Behind her is Brad Friel. He's our Senior VP of Multimodal Planning and Environment. We changed his title to multimodal because that's truly what we're getting to be. It's planes, trains, and automobiles. So next to him is Kevin Thompson. He's one of our planning managers there at GOA. And the rest of the team, Angela Stark is our Vice President of Strategic Communications. And next to her is Judith Ann Jarrett, who is our VP of Operations at Orlando Executive Airport. So, and then the rest of the team here is with Ricondo, who is doing our work for us and is part of the strategic plan. They're also our general consultant. Thank you, Mayor. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, Tim Johnson, thank you for wearing the tie. I appreciate that.
I was looking for
Yeah, he got the message today.
Well, thank you for being here. That was a
Thank
great
you.
presentation.
Definitely.
Okay, that concludes our workshop for today, April 3rd, 2023. We stand adjourned.